Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Chapter 11. Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gadatamevam Rishinam Dhanushi Dhruvaha Sandadestramupaspushya Yennarayana Nirmitam. Sri Maitreya said, My dear Vidura, when Dhruva Maharaja heard the encouraging words of the great sages, he performed the Achamana by touching water and then took up his arrow made by Lord Narayana and fixed it upon his bow. Sandiyamanaye tasmin maya guhya kanirmitaha kshipram niveshur vidhura klesha jnanodayeyata. As soon as Dhruva Maharaja joined the Narayanastra arrow to his bow, the illusion created by the yakshas was immediately vanished, just as all material pains and pleasures are vanished when one becomes fully cognizant of the self. Tasyar shastram dhanushi prayunjatah suvarna punka kalaham savasasaha vinisruta avivishurdvishadbalam yatavanam bhimarava shikandinaha. Even as Dhruva Maharaja fixed the weapon made by Narayana Rishi onto his bow, arrows with golden shafts and feathers, like the wings of the swan, flew out from it. They entered the enemy soldiers with great hissing sound, just as peacocks enter a forest with tumultuous crowing. तैस्तिग्मधाग्रैः प्रदने शिलीमुखैरितस्ततः पुण्यजना उपद्रुताः तमभ्यधावन् कुपिता उधायुधाः सुपर्णमुन्नद्धफणा इवाहयः. Those sharp arrows dismayed the enemy soldiers, who became almost unconscious, but various yakshas on the battlefield, in a rage against Dhruva Maharaja, somehow or the other collected their weapons and attacked. Just as serpents agitated by Garuda rushed towards Garuda with upraised hoods, all the yaksha soldiers prepared to overcome Dhruva Maharaja with their upraised weapons. Satan prashatkairabhidavato mrudhe nikrutta bahurishirodharodharan ninaya lokam paramarkamandalam vrajanti nirbhidya yamudhyaretasaha. When Dhruva Maharaja saw the yakshas coming forward, he immediately took his arrows and cut the enemies to pieces. Separating their arms, legs, heads, and bellies from their bodies, he delivered the yakshas to the planetary system, which is situated above the sun globe and which is attainable only by the first class brahmacharis who have never discharged their semen. तान् हन्यमानानभिवीक्ष्य गुह्यका ननागशश्चित्तविभ्रान्ता रतेन भूरिशः औत्तानपादिं कृपया पितामहो मनुर्जगादोपगतः सहर्षिभिः. When Swayambhuva Manu saw that his grandson Dhruva Maharaja was killing so many yakshas who were not actually offenders, out of his great compassion he approached Dhruva with great sages to give him good instruction. Manuruvacha alam vatsatirosena tamodvarena papmana yena punyajananetan avadhistvamanagasah. Lord Manu said, "My dear son, please stop. It is not good to become unnecessarily angry. It is the path to hellish life. Now you are going beyond the limit by killing yakshas who are actually not offenders. Nasmat Nasmatkulochitam Nasmatkulochitam Tata Karmaitat Sadvigarhitam Vadho Yadupadevanam Arabdhaste Krutai Nasam. My dear son, the killing of the sinless yakshas which you have undertaken is not at all approved by authorities, and it does not befit our family, which is supposed to know the laws of religion and irreligion. Nanve kasyaparadhena prasangad bahavo hataha bhraturvadhabitaptena tvayanga bhratruvatsala. My dear son, it has been proved that you are very much affectionate towards your brother and are greatly aggrieved at his being killed by the yakshas. But just consider, for one yaksha's offense, you have killed so many others who are innocent. Nayam margo hi sadhunam rishikeshanuvartinam yadatmanam paragruhya Pashuvadbhuta Vaishasam. One should not accept the body as self and thus, like animals, kill the bodies of others. This is especially forbidden by saintly persons who follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena Bhutavasam Harim Bhavan Aradhyapaduraradyam Vishnostatparamam Padam. It is very difficult to achieve the spiritual abode of Hari in the Vaikuntha planets, but you are so fortunate that you are already destined to go to that abode by worshipping him as the supreme abode of all living entities. Sattvam hareranudhyatas tatpumsamapi sammatah katam tvavadhyam krutavan anushikshan satam vratam. Because you are a pure devotee of the Lord is always thinking of you, and you are also recognized by all his confidential devotees. Your life is meant for exemplary behavior. I am therefore surprised. Why have you undertaken such a abominable task? Titikshaya karunaya maitriya chakila jantushu samatvena cha sarvatma bhagavan samprasidati. The Lord is very satisfied with his devotee when the devotee greets other people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality. Samprasanne bhagavati purushah prakrutairgunaihi vimukto jiva nirmukto brahma nirvana mruchati. One who actually satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead during one's lifetime becomes liberated from the gross and subtle material conditions. Thus, being freed from all material modes of nature, he he achieves unlimited spiritual bliss. भूतैः पञ्चभिरार भूतैः पञ्चभिरारब्धैर्योषित् पुरुष एव हि तयोर् तयोर्व्यवा तयोर्व्यवायात् सम्भूतिर्योषित् पुरुषयोरिह. The creation of the material world begins with the five elements, and thus everything, including the body of the man or the woman, is created of these elements. By the sexual life of man and woman, the number of men and women in this material world is further increased. एवं प्रवर्तते सर्गः स्थितिः संयम एव च गुणव्यतिकराद्राजन् मायया परमात्मनः. Manu continued, "My dear King Dhruva, it is simply by the illusionary material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by the interaction of the three modes of material nature that creation, maintenance, and annihilation take place." निमित्तमात्रं तत्रासीन् निर्गुणः पुरुषर्षभः व्यक्ताव्यक्तमिदं विश्वं यत्र भ्रमति लोहवत्. My dear Dhruva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. He is the remote cause of the creation of this material cosmic manifestation. When he gives the impetus, many other causes and effects are produced, and thus the whole universe moves just as iron moves by the integrated force of a magnet. Sakilvidham Bhagavan Kalashaktiya Gunapravahena Vibhakti Viryaha Karotya Kartaiva Nihantya Hanta Cheshta Vibhumnah Kalu Durvibhavya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his unconceivable supreme energy, time, causes the interaction of the three modes of material nature, and thus varieties of energy become manifest. It appears that he is acting, but he is not the actor. He is killing, but he is not the killer. Thus, it is understood that only by his inconceivable power is everything happening. Sonantontakarah kalo nadiradikrutavyayah janam janena janayan marayan mrutyunantakam. My dear Dhruva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever exhibiting, but in the form of time. He is the killer of everything. He has no beginning, although he is the beginning of everything, nor is he ever exhaustible, although everything is exhausted in due course of time. The living entities are created through the agency of the Father and killed through the agency of death, but he is perpetually free of birth and death. न वै स्वपक्षोऽस्य विपक्ष एव वा परस्य मृत्योर्विशतः समं प्रजाः तं धावमानमनुधावन्त्यनीशा यथा रजांस्यनिलं भूतसङ्घाः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his feather of eternal time, is present in the material world and is neutral towards everyone. No one is his ally and no one is his enemy. Within the jurisdiction of time element, everyone enjoys or suffers the result of his own karma or fruitive activities. And when the wind blows, small particles of dust fly in the air. So according to one's particular karma, one suffers or enjoys material life. आयुषोपचयं जन्तोस्तथैवोपचयं विभुः उभाभ्यां रहितः स्वस्थो दुस्तस्य विदधात्यसौ. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is also powerful and he awards the results of one's fruitive activities. Thus, although one living entity's duration of life is very small, whereas that of another is very great, he is always in his transcendental position, and there is no question of lessening or increasing his duration of life. केचित् कर्म वदन्त्येनं स्वभावमपरे नृप एके कालं परे दैवं पुंसः काममुतापरे. The differentiation among varieties of life and their suffering and enjoyment is explained by some to be the result of karma, others say it is due to nature, others due to time, others due to fate, and still others say it is due to desire. Avyaktasya prameyasya nanashakthyudhayasya cha navai chikirshitam tata ko vedat swasambhavam. The absolute truth, transcendence, is never subject to understanding of imperfect sensory endeavor, nor is he subject to direct experience. He is the master of varieties of energies, like full material energy, and no one can understand his plans or actions. Therefore, it should be concluded that although he is the original cause of all causes, no one can know him by mental speculation. न चैते पुत्रकभ्रातुर्हन्तारो धनधानुगाः विसर्गादानयोस्तात पुंसो दैवं हि कारणम्. My dear son, those yakshas who are descendants of Kuvera are not actually the killers of your brothers. The birth and death of every living entity are caused by the Supreme, who is certainly the cause of all causes. Sayeva Vishwam Srujati, Sayevavati Hanti cha Atapi Hanahankaran Najyate Gunakarmabhihi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world, maintains it and annihilates it in due course of time, but because he is transcendental to such activities, he is never affected by ego in such action or by modes of material nature. Yesha bhutani bhutatma bhutesho bhuta bhavanaha swashaktya mayaya yuktaha srujatyatti cha pati cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supersoul of all living entities. He is the controller and maintainer of everyone. Through the agency of his external energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates everyone. Tameva mrutyumamrutam tata daivam sarvatmanopeti jagatparayanam yasmai bhalim vishwasrujo haranti Gavo yata vainasi dhamayantritaha. My dear boy Dhruva, please surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate goal of the progress of the world. Everyone, including the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, is working under his control, just as a bull, prompted by a rope in its nose, is controlled by its owner. Yaf panchavarsho jananim tvam vihaya मातुः सपत्न्या वचसा भिन्नमर्मा वनं गतस्तपसा प्रत्यगक्ष माराध्यालेभे मूर्ध्नि padam trilokyah. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5, you were very grievously afflicted by the wounds of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the three worlds. तमेन मङ्गात्मनि मुक्तविग्रहे व्यपाश्रितं निर्गुणमेकमक्षरम् आत्मानमन्विच्य विमुक्तमात्मदृग् यस्मिन्निदं भेदमसत्प्रतीयते. My dear Dhruva, please therefore turn your attention to the Supreme Person, who is the infallible Brahman. Face the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your original position, and thus by self-realization you will find his material differentiation to be merely flickering. Tvam pratyagatmani tada bhagavatyananta anandamatra upapanna samastashaktav bhaktim vidhaya paramam shanakairavidya grantim vibhetsyasi mamaha miti prarudam. Thus regaining your natural position and rendering service unto the Lord, unto the Supreme Lord, who is the all-powerful reservoir of all pleasure and who lives in all living entities as the Super Soul, you will soon forget the illusionary understanding of I and my. Samyacharosham bhadram te pratishpam shreyasam param shrutena bhuyasa rajan naghadena yatamayam. My dear king, just consider what I have said to you, which will act as a medicinal treatment upon disease. Control your anger, for anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. I wish all good fortune for you. Please follow my instruction. Yenopasrushtat purushalloka udvijate brusham na buddhyastadvasham gacche chidichanna bhayamatmanaha. A person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because when bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread for all others. Helanam girishabratur dhanadasya tvaya kritam yajagnivan punyajanan bhratrugnan nityamarshitaha. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great number of them. But by this action you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother, Kubera, who is the treasurer of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kubera and Lord Shiva. Tam prasadhaya vatsashu sannatya prakshayoktibihi nayavan mahatam tejaha kulam no bhavishyati. For this reason, my son, you should immediately pacify Kubera with gentle words and prayers, and thus his wrath may not affect our family. Yevam swayam bhuvah pautram anushasya manurdhruvam tena bivandita sakam rishibhiswapuram yayau. Thus Swayambhuva Manu, after giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaja, his grandson received respectful obeisances from him. Then Manu and the great sages went back to their respective homes. Thus ends the chapter entitled Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaja to stop fighting. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.